for me, like when I pick up a fly rod, it's like, all right, I'm about to go to church. Like I'm going to like totally relax, and it's like a spiritual thing for me.
Very excited to be back this week with Wild Bill. How's it going, Bill?
Going good. How you doing?
Good. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was very good. How about yours?
It was really good. I didn't overeat this time.
Yeah. Well, I make no comment on that.
Yeah, it was a great time. Some great time with family, and
it's a cold day though.
Yeah, you were up in northern Michigan. Like, how cold was it?
It got down to single digits overnight.
Really?
It did.
It's quite a bit colder than down here.
Yeah, it usually varies by about 10 degrees.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple cold nights, but not that cold. But
tonight would be the night to be camping out, though. 46 degrees right now.
Yeah, it's really nice out. Very, very nice. Went for a hike today and took the family out. But yeah, it's really cool to be here on the Remote No Pressure podcast. Bill, always a pleasure to hang out with you. Let me ask you a question. When you were a kid, how many people in your class were allergic to peanuts?
Well, I had a very small class.
Okay.
I told you that. I had maybe 60-some in my graduating class. We're a small rural town.
Okay.
I don't remember one peanut allergy. But, that's not a common topic we talked about. But, like, we had peanut butter sandwiches at lunch. They served to us.
Sure.
And I don't remember anybody opting out. But
did you have Snickers in the vending machines?
We didn't have...
Or paydays?
We didn't have vending machines like that. We had like pop machines, and that was radical in the 90s.
Yeah, I went to a pretty large school, 5A school in Texas, so that was pretty common. But the allergies wasn't, we didn't have anyone that I knew growing up that had the allergies, So there was an issue of Reason Magazine that came out, their 50th anniversary of Reason Magazine, and they talked about part of the reason why more kids today are allergic to peanuts is because back in the day we thought, oh my gosh, all these kids are allergic to peanuts, so people kept their babies away from peanuts, and essentially the number of people allergic to peanuts doubled over the next 10, 15 years.
I've heard of that. Like if you're not exposing kids to it, they're going to get the allergies to it down the road.
Yeah. And actually in the article is Reason Magazine, and it was in December, and it was written by a guy by the name of Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt. So if anybody knows them, you're probably going to know I mispronounced their names. But one of the quotes in there was the rationale for it's what they call the hygiene hypothesis, and allergy rates generally go up as countries get wealthier and healthier. Allergy rates,
So if you want to raise your kid without allergies, you want to move to a third world country? Is that what you're saying?
No, but it's like one of the reasons why also in this article it talks about we're not getting our kids exposed to the outdoors enough, and their bodies learn how to fight off a lot of the things that they may become allergic to. Mm-hmm. And we always talk about going fishing more and things like that. I was like, get your kids outside. And you sent me something on screens recently.
On cell phones, yeah.
And this is not one of your conspiracy theories, Bill.
Well, it kind of is. This goes back to President Eisenhower. No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to remember that whole thing now. First of all, how cell phones could give you, cancer, or the radiation's bad for you. But This was talking about how kids are withdrawing from society more and spending more time on their cell phones, and that's giving them more depression and just all in all withdrawing. If they're not spending time with people, but they're interacting with people still on their phones, but that's making them depressed and lonely and a whole onslaught of things that are bad.
Yeah, and I read that article, or was it? It was a video. Mm-hmm. It was a video, and it actually talked about. It was borderline conspiracy theory, but if you really look into it, it wasn't. It was pretty factual.
There's a lot of facts to it. Yeah.
But we have two boys that are younger, 9 and 5, Reagan and Elliot, and it's a constant fight to keep them off of screens.
Yep.
It is. It's like crack. It's like crack. And then you sent me that video I immediately moved my phone as far away from my midsection as I possibly could. And then my son comes in off the computer and his eyes are kind of red because he was playing some game,
Yep.
and he wanted to watch TV. I'm like, no, you've been in front of a screen. This is a constant fight. He's 9 years old. And I'm like, you can't be in front of screens. You have to go outside and just play.
And this is like a modern, this has only been happening the last, say, 10, 15 years. We didn't have that many computers in the 80s and 90s. They were a hot commodity. Not everybody had a computer because they were so expensive.
Right. And they didn't have the capabilities that they have now.
That's true. There's no, Al Gore didn't invent the internet until like the late 80s or early 90s, they said, so.
Well, okay, so let me tell you another thing, okay? Because this article, I don't know if it was this Reason or another issue of Reason, but talked about kids being able to just play outside by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was a kid, I was about 7. I was about 7 years old, and we lived on a lake. We just built a house, and my mom loved the house, and so she would, in the summertime, lock us out of the house while she would clean the house. Okay, it's like, unless you've got a emergency, don't come inside. Period. And it was just while she was cleaning the house. So she ended up, one day I was outside and I would climb these pine trees. We had this forest, and I was 7 years old, and I would not let my 7-year-old just go play by himself in a forest, good luck, kid, And so I had watched that show, Rescue Rangers. Remember that show?
With Chip and Dale. That was a modern retelling of Chip and Dale from of the 50s characters, Chip and Dale.
Yeah, so
they could speak now.
Right. So it was like Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers.
What was the female? Was she a mouse? What was her name?
I don't know. She was a chipmunk.
Are you sure she was a chipmunk?
I don't know.
The fat one was a rat. And then there's this bee thing. I think she was a mouse, but I can't remember her name. Gadget? No. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Go on with the story.
All right. So anyways. All right. So we go to so I watched the show and they jumped off of an office desk or something with a garbage bag. Okay. And I thought, wow, that's a really great parachute. So before my mom locked me out of the house, I immediately went underneath the sink because I knew the time was coming. I'm going to have to go outside, And I grabbed a garbage bag, right? And I climbed up to the top of this pine tree. And I'm like, okay, I'm going
to the top of the pine tree.
Yeah. And it wasn't 30 feet. It's probably 10 feet. Okay.
That's still a drop.
It's still pretty high. But I had a parachute, so.
Well, it made sense.
Yeah. So I jump out of the tree and I immediately fall to the ground. I knock the air out of my lungs. Okay. And I come conscious. I don't know what happened, And I'm like, oh my God. And my first thought, Bill, was I should have grabbed 2 bags.
I would be the rational side of me would be thinking, there's not enough time for the parachute to open. I need a taller tree.
Right. Exactly. And Dr. James Dobson wrote a book called Raising Boys. Mm-hmm. And it's you want to keep them moral and you want them to make good decisions and be good men, but you also want to keep them alive until they can make a rational decision, And I think back on all those times when, I came near-death experiences because my parents just kind of left me alone. Mm-hmm. But this article is talking about how when we let our kids play by themselves, it allows them to learn how to be creative. When they're playing, baseball with the neighbors, they learn how to teamwork and work things out and make up the rules. Yep. And there's a lot of these things of playing outside that they're not getting now because they're in front of screens.
And anymore, you'd be thrown in jail, too, if you just let your kid wander around a forest or you just left them alone, in the neighborhood to go play with the neighborhood kids.
Right, exactly. Yeah, go play. Or I think it was Connecticut. They were trying to pass a law where kids under 11 had to be met at the school bus.
Yeah.
We were latchkey kids, a lot of us. Mm-hmm. You got home, you took a beating from your big brother. Yeah, yep. You had to figure things out. You make yourself a sandwich with margarine and white bread.
Mom's not home. Double margarine today.
Yeah, you can raise all kinds of hell for the next hour and a half, and then you better.
And you're an angel. Homework's done, Mom.
Homework's all done, Mom. No, but it's those. It was talking in this article about letting your kids play and letting them be outside by themselves. And I, being a father, it's like that's really like I understand. I mean, when I was really young, we went to the creek. We did all these crazy things. When I was really, really young, I would not let my 9-year-old do that now. It's like he can't do that, but he probably could if we, gave him credit.
Yeah, lighten up, man.
Lighten up. I am that dad. I love my kids so much, but we talk a lot on here about just getting outdoors.
Yeah.
And getting your kids outdoors so they're not alert. They don't have a lot of the allergies. We've had Katie Webster and these other people on the podcast who've talked about, health and even the physical health of being outdoors, not just the mental health, And it was an interesting article. So we'll put a link up to that on the website.
Sounds good.
Good
read.
Yeah. And this week with Merrill Robinson, she has a great company and a great PR firm. We'll put some links up on that too. And she's a very interesting article, a native Texan. And welcome to the podcast, guys. Let's light the fire. Well, I'm very excited. Today on the Remote No Pressure podcast. We have Merrill Robinson. Thank you very much for hanging out with us, Merrill.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I came across your Instagram page, which is amazing. You have great content. And then we know some of the people that follow me and that I know also follow what you're doing down in Austin, which is the capital of the greatest country. I'm just kidding. But do you know Aaron Reed by any chance? Do you know him?
Oh my gosh, I sure do.
Okay.
Whether that's a good thing or not, I'm not sure.
Well, tell me more. I'm not asking for juicy gossip. How do you know Aaron? His content is epic. His content is really good.
Yeah, I totally agree. Which, you're welcome. I helped him with that. Anyways, so yeah, Aaron is launching a book. It's coming out in summer of 2019. It's called Fly Fishing Central Texas, or Fly Fishing the Texas Hill Country. And I think they've kind of been going back and forth on the name for it, but it's coming out next summer, which is really cool. And, I started getting involved in fly fishing about 1.5 years ago, like June 2017. I went and picked up my first combo outfit. It was like a Reddington Path combo.
Hey, that's not
outfit.
bad. That's not a bad first combo.
I mean, I invested like $150 in just like your run-of-the-mill basic combo, and then I just started practicing casting with it. But once I got my casting down, which I was on Sundays, I would go out back and cast into a pool in my parents' pool, which is hilarious because people were like, "What are you doing?" But once I started getting my casting down, I didn't actually know how to retrieve. How do you retrieve your line? And so, which I've noticed is a really big issue among other women in the community. Other women have been I went to a casting class and I talked all about casting, but I don't actually know how to fish. How do you fish? Which is totally how I started. And so I just kind of came across Aaron. He was Texas Aaron. He had a ton of fly fishing content out there. And I was like, cool, I like this sport. I'll follow you.
Right.
And I followed him. And we just kind of went back and forth. And he randomly messaged me one day and was like, hey, I'm doing this book and I need a female to come out and be representative of this book. And I was like, yeah, I'm a native Texan, born and raised in Austin. Of course I will be in your fly fishing book. So I went out with him, and he is he's an Army vet, and we just became good friends very, very quickly. And so we started fishing together and becoming really good friends. And he introduced me to his other kind of group of fly fishing buds that he's met. And, Yeah, so he basically taught me how to fish. I didn't even catch a fish for the first like 6 months that I was fly fishing.
Wow.
So yeah, and I owe Aaron, like, he was with me when I caught my first bass, and he stuck with me one day, and we worked all day. We fished Brushy Creek all day one day. I lost a pair of Ray-Ban glasses that day.
Awesome.
And it was just like the most epic failure of a fishing day. And he was just like, no, like, we are going somewhere else and we're going to get you a bass. And we went to like 2 other spots. And finally at dusk, he was just like, just throw your fly in the middle of this like pool right here. And I threw it in there and I caught like the smallest little dink of a bass ever. But it didn't matter because we were like, whatever, it worked. Like, accomplishment. It was great. It was awesome. But so I have been helping him kind of take a little bit of the photography for his book. And so whoever buys the book, you'll get to see some of my photography. And then he's also the contributing writer for Southwest Fly Fishing magazine. And we wrote an article. He wrote it. I did the photography for it. And we kind of collaborated on an article that he wrote for Southwest Fly Fishing magazine on the land past this river, which will be coming out in November or December. I can't remember which one he said. But yeah, so we've kind of collaborated, and he's helped me kind of veer over into the outdoor writing sector of the outdoor industry. Just because I'm in the outdoor industry marketing side of things, he's helped me kind of veer back into the writing side of things, just because that's what I really miss. And everybody really, really wants social media right now. And over the summer, I've kind of been trying to like get more of the writing stuff going, just because I miss writing. And he's been a little bit of like a mentor. I shouldn't even say a little bit. He has totally been my mentor in the whole fly fishing world, and, you know, helping me understand what to do. And just, you know, we've both had like huge epiphanies about what we're doing out on the water and whatnot. And so, you know, it's just been a fun time, and it's cool having a mentor that you just like totally understand, totally are on the same page with, and you also share a hobby that, you know, not a lot of other Austinites, but more so not a lot of other female Austinites are really into the fly fishing thing. But yeah, he's been awesome, and he's actually introduced me to a couple of my subcontractors that I use for my business as well, which is, I owe him a lot.
That's really cool. And when you say you miss writing, like, I read a statistic, Merrill, and don't quote me on this.
Oh God.
But I think it's like 90% of books written about fishing are about fly fishing.
Really?
And, yes. And so like bass fishing and like fishing with spinning gear, like not a lot of
So funny. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. And so like if you look up, most of the great legendary outdoor books are fly fishing books, you know? And so
oh my gosh,
if you love writing, like this is the great sport for you, because we unfortunately have a lot of readers, you know, in this cult / hobby that we are all part of. You know, most of these people are very well read and they enjoy reading.
Yeah.
So
oh yeah, Aaron gave me like a mountain of books, and I need to sit down and read them so badly. And I've talked to other people, or like seen other people writing in different Facebook groups, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I read this book and it saved my life." And I keep looking at it, and it's like next to my desk, and I'm like, God, I swear, I'm gonna open you one day, and I'm not gonna stop until I finish it.
Yeah, I got a lot of books on my shelf, you know, and Dave Karzinski, who's like an amazing author, wrote a book this year for Orvis called From Lure to Fly. I think it's From Lure to Fly. And that was a great book. You know, and that was awesome for people who are looking to make the transition. I'll give them a plug. Okay, whatever. So people that are making a look from transition from lure to fly fishing, which is kind of intimidating. I know, like in Texas where I grew up, I grew up in Houston area, but I spent a lot of time in deep East Texas by Sam Rayburn and Lake Toledo Bend. And it's all about the big largemouth bass, you know, and it was all bass fishing, which back then, I mean, I never saw. My buddy had a big lake house, and so we fished Toledo Bend all the time, and but we never fished fly gear, you know, spinning baits and, you know, rubber worms.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Totally.
So why do you think of all places, Texas, why is it catching on like that? It's like a wildfire down there. Well, hello everyone. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. It's great to be back here on the air at the Remote No Pressure podcast. I'm so happy that you're here, and we just wanted to take a break in the middle of the podcast. I know it's that time of year that we're so thankful for our friends and our families and everything like that. And I just want to encourage you to check out our website at remotenopressure.com and check out all the things that we have available. We have our Songs About Fly Fishing album. We have our decals. And every time you buy something on our store, it goes to help sponsor. It helps to support what we're doing here at Remote No Pressure, which is capturing this moment in fly fishing history. You know, we've talked to some great guests and some great people, and some people that I didn't even know that have turned out to be phenomenal stories. And we're capturing this moment. You know, I remember talking to one guest after the interview, and he's like, "Jeff, what you're doing is important because, you know, people are going to look back in 20 years and say, oh, I wonder what that person said about that," or, you know, and we are capturing that here at the Remote No Pressure podcast. So every time you make a purchase from remotenopressure.com, the profit is immediately reinvested into what we're doing here. So as you're thinking about what you should buy your family and friends and the stocking stuffers and things like that, check out remotenopressure.com. Go to our shop there and take a look around and see if something fits what you're looking to do. And we'd love to have your business. Every week, we're just so thankful for you. And as Thanksgiving came this past Thursday, I thought, man, you know, like I never thought it would get this crazy. You know, as we started this podcast behind a card table with an old Macintosh computer, I never thought like, wow, this is going to grow like this. So it's been overwhelming, and it's all because of you guys, you know, listening every week. So we really appreciate that. Check out our website at remotenopressure.com and have a happy holiday.
I think, you know, so when I was in college, I went to Ole Miss, University of Mississippi in Oxford, Mississippi. And the entire time I was in college, I was like, I don't care what I do. I don't care if I get a job offer anywhere. It would have to be the best job offer in the world for me to turn down moving back to Austin. And so, like, that's how much I loved Austin, which, you know, I was born and raised here, and then I left to go to school. And so when I came back, it was like I had this, like, huge respect for not only Austin, but just, like, Texas in general. And I think that kind of morale just goes with you. It's like a huge sense of pride, which is really cool. And then, you know, I think that a lot of people, well, we know that a lot of people have moved to Austin just from this huge tech wave that's come through. Austin is like a huge startup hub, and everyone seems to be from somewhere else. So when I moved here, it was like, what happened to my city? Like, what happened in my town, my big town?
Really?
And everyone just seems to be from somewhere else. But with that, I mean, this fly fishing culture and this culture of, like, I mean, it's no secret that Austin is, like, full of hipsters.
Sure.
And I think that this new, like, modern sportsman demographic is kind of centrally located in the Texas Hill Country. And I think that this idea of, like, fly fishing has become this really cool and, like, sexy thing for people to do. And I think that's cool. I mean, for me, like when I pick up a fly rod, it's like, all right, I'm about to go to church. Like I'm going to like totally relax. And this, I mean, it's like a spiritual thing for me just because I'm very creative and artistic and, you know, I make a living out of being creative. And so for me, like I always call fly fishing like the ballet of fishing, but I think that in Texas, people have this like, this sense of being the best. Texans are like, oh yeah, you're from Michigan? Oh, well, let me tell you, I'm from Texas. And, you know, just like you said in the beginning of this podcast, you know, the greatest country in the world, Texas is it. And so I think that people are just naturally going to flock to Texas. And with that, they're going to bring their cultures and their ways. And with that, people are starting to want to go to the coolest places. And, you know, with that, people see pictures on social media of Montana and they want to go to the mountains and they want to go fly fish. And then they bring back that addictive passion with them. And I mean, that's how I got started. The first time I went fly fishing was down the Yellowstone River. I went on a float trip with a guide, and I brought it back with me, and I thought about it for 2 years until I bought until I bought my own fly outfit. So, I mean, I think that people are just starting to travel more, and they're starting to, you know, do the next coolest thing. And so with that, I think that Texans just kind of harbor this sense of pride about being the first and the best and the greatest. And with that, they're starting to spread the addiction of fly fishing, which to me is the coolest thing in the world. And I meet people every single day, women and men, who are just like in the most random remote places, and they're fishing like ultralight rods on Milano or something.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
And I think it's awesome. And it's kind of like, you know, I have friends in Fort Worth. I have friends in Houston. I have friends in literally random West Texas. And I'm like, where can you even find water? How do you even go fish?
Right.
So I think that it's just this, you know, Texas has a sense of being the best and being the coolest and being the first to start the trend. And I think that most of us here are just like, oh yeah, fly fishing? Yeah, we do that too. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about with this spitting bait and bait casters. Like, we fly fish down here.
Right, yeah. Well, it's funny because I was down in Austin last summer with my wife, and we've been married for 14 years, and she knows, like,
oh my gosh,
my obsession.
Congrats.
Oh, thank you. My obsession with Texas. You know, she knows she's always kind of tolerated it, and we live in Michigan and everything. So, but you know, I always, you know, talk about Texas and everything like that. And so when we were down there last summer, we were in Austin, and we had our two boys with us, and I said we're going to go on the tour of the state capitol, where, you know, it's free, and you go there and they take you on a tour of the Texas state capitol. And when we were done with that, my wife looked at me and she said, I totally understand. I totally get it.
I know, right?
The story behind, like, you know, it's just a really cool story, how it became a country and how it separated from Mexico, then a state, and then a country. And then, like, you know, it's just this, I don't know. It's just like something, like, there's an old joke I tell people. How do you know when someone's from Texas? They'll tell you, you know. They'll tell you.
I knew where that was going.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's the whole joke. But it's like, man, I got this, like, and so I've been interviewing a lot of people down there in Texas, and it's just like, it's just on fire. The culture for fly fishing is just crazy, and it's just growing. And it's really cool to see that, and it makes me a little more homesick. But I think, like, the biggest Trout Unlimited chapter is in Houston, which is very odd considering, you know. But see, I grew up there, and like you, growing up in Texas here, I grew up in a town called Lake Jackson, which is just south of Houston, closer to the beach, closer to the Gulf. And all my friends were from Michigan because Dow Chemical's there. And so all my friends had moved down there from Michigan, so my accent's not super thick, and plus I've lived here for so long. But it's like you were saying, there's all these transplants there that make it kind of a unique melting pot. And it's really cool to see that.
Yeah. I think what's so cool about the culture too is that, a lot of these people are bringing, like that melting pot, they're bringing their traditions and their interests and their hobbies with them. But it's almost more than that. Like the way that people approach fly fishing in Texas, and anytime I teach someone new, like I took a fly rod to my best friend's wedding in Maine, and her boyfriend is like, he loves to fish, and he's like a big bait caster guy. And I just brought my 30 weight out, and I just went in the front yard with him before the rehearsal dinner, and I just taught him how to cast. And I think that, these transplants are bringing something brings like a sense of soul searching and passion. And I think that Texans are totally in tune with that because we feel that way about our state. And it's not something you learn really. I mean, I guess it is. I've had friends from Oregon, and after living here for 2 months are starting to say y'all. And it's just kind of like you grow into it and you adapt to it. But it's more than just like, oh yeah, this is a sport. This is something that like hits people in the chest, like right in the feels. Which is hilarious.
It's really awesome to see that. And everyone I talk to down there is super passionate about it. It's not like,
oh, I know.
Oh, yeah, I just kind of fly fish. No, it's like, I fly fish and it's everything to me, and it's really cool to see. So one of the things, like I talked to a guy today, and I'd like to ask, your feedback. I talked to a guy today about fly fishing, and he's like, what do you do, Jeff, for work? And, I was just talking to him about our company here and what we're doing and just some really cool stuff that's coming down the pipe. And then also just, what he goes, well, I've always wanted to try fly fishing. He's like, about something that, is that something you could just go out for an hour, or do you have to travel somewhere? And we live in Michigan. This is like the home of Trout Unlimited, and he's like,
oh, yeah.
He's like, I it just looks so hard to cast. And it goes back to what you were saying, just about intimidated. And I was like, no, you can. I go out for 1 hour all the time, and I take my kids fly fishing, and it seems like kind of an intimidating thing. And and as a female angler, did you feel that way? And what are some ways that you overcame that as you started fly fishing?
So I totally felt intimidated, and it's a little like still to this day, it's a little intimidating going into a fly shop because I'm still learning. Like. The whole balancing your fly concept, or not your fly, balancing your outfit, like rod to reel to line, the leader to tippet, it's a fly, is totally mind-boggling to me because people will return a rod because they're like, oh yeah, I didn't agree with me. Which in reality, it's probably because they had too heavy a fly line on it, or too light, or their fly was too big or something. And so that's something that I'm constantly trying to be aware of. Like I have an 8 weight that I'm totally just like, yeah, this thing just doesn't agree with me. I just can't throw it. But in reality, it probably has something to do with my double haul. And so, and the thing is it's kind of intimidating going up to someone and being like, I don't know what I'm doing with my double haul. I need help. And because I think a lot of people think that, I think a lot of people are scared that the people in the fly shops are trying to sell you something, which isn't true. Like there are the people that work in fly shops love it when people come in, which is so awesome because you can talk their ear off forever about, this one weird thing that you're doing with your forearm and your cast or something. And, I think that as a female angler in Texas, especially in Austin, just because there aren't that many here, and maybe there are, but they're hiding like I did for the first 24 years of my life. And And, I think that they kind of get excited when a woman comes in and they want to like talk to me. But also, there are the couple bad eggs who get annoyed and they're like, oh my God, like another girl, she doesn't know what she's doing, but we'll just sell her all this stuff. But
right.
It is intimidating. And I think that's why I didn't end up catching a fish for the first 6 months. And I think that that's a big reason of why it pays off to kind of reach out to your community. And it might make you a little bit uncomfortable to be on the water with a complete stranger that you met on Instagram. But, obviously, at this day and age, you never know what people are going to do. But sometimes you just kind of got to bite the bullet and go. And it's weird. Literally, it just comes down to, it's just weird being a female, especially in a place where there are not many other females who are into what you're into. Mm-hmm. And luckily, there are a couple of other females that work in, Orvis, Austin, Living Waters fly fishing, and Sportsman's Finest. And then there's Green Outfitters down in New Braunfels, but which I know a lot of people in the Central Texas area go down to the New Braunfels area to go trout fish in the Guadalupe or below the Canyon Lake Dam. But, for us who are kind of in Central Austin, who are fishing Lake Austin, Town Lake, it will never be Lady Bird Lake to me. It's always Town Lake, San Jack and Lampasas and Delano. There are women in these fly shops who would be more than happy to go with other women around the Austin or Texas Hill Country area. And I've met women or just girls who are my age in their mid to, early and late 20s who want to get into fly fishing because they see my pictures and they are on Instagram and they reach out to me and they're like, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. How did you get started? Where do I start? What do I do? And basically, I kind of take it upon myself to be like, okay, we're going to meet here. We're going to get you a fly outfit. We're just going to I always tell people to just start with a combo pack because sometimes it's just not for everybody.
Right. Which
is fine. That's acceptable. But, it's just kind of nice to let them start out at an entry level rate. They're not paying too much. They're dropping $150 on a combo rod and reel. Everything's set up for them. All they have to do is just learn a knot and tie it on to the leader. And, I think that there's a better way about it than just that. I think that, we should utilize our fly shops more because there have been plenty of times that I've gone into a fly shop and there have been two people in there who know what they're buying and they're just checking out really quickly to go hit the, North Fork of the San Jack or whatever. And the associates that are working in our fly shops want to talk to you about it and they want to learn your stories and they want to hear about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And they want to help you as best as possible because they're the ones kind of facilitating the addiction here in Texas.
Sure.
But, to a point, it comes down to intimidation factors of, well, I don't know where to start and I don't know how to start and I'm too afraid to ask. And if that's the case, then reach out to me on Instagram. I will totally tell you how. But I think at the end of the day, it's kind of, if you're interested in getting into fly fishing and you want to know, you kind of have to, take hold of that curiosity and just go for it and try it. And kind of like I did. I just went out on the river with two strangers that I had never met before. But not every girl can go and do that, and I don't blame them because that's totally weird.
Now you have done something. You do. You started a Facebook page, right? That's just for women anglers. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And we'll put the link up in the show notes. But can you tell us a little bit about that and how that's going for you?
Yeah. So I started this Facebook group called Sportswomen Certified on Facebook. Just, I came across one of the regular fishing pages in Texas. And, someone asked, like, what do you think fly fishing industry or fly fishing company, or not fly fishing, but just fishing companies and fishing industries are lacking in their promotions? And a lot of the answers were like, oh, naked girls, ooh, more boobs and more cleavage and things like that. And I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm not going to lose my cool right now. I'm just going to start a Facebook group just for women to come on here and not feel intimidated. If they want to post about their fly fishing catch, that's great. If they want to post about their harvested animal that they shot on the hunt, that's awesome. And just kind of starting this, basically facilitating another addiction or another curiosity into how do I get started in fly fishing, or how do I get started in hunting, and just creating this space for women where they don't feel judged. They don't feel like they're being, looked at in a weird way or anything. They feel comfortable posting about what they love. And there have been so many girls on there who have asked, like, oh my gosh, I love all these fly fishing photos from you girls. I've been hunting for years and I've wanted to get into fly fishing, but now, like, my mind is made up that I need to get into it. How do I start? Where do I start? And what do I do? And the overall just reaction of women who were mainly posting about hunting and then kind of just came out of the woodwork and were like, you need to do this. I was like, this is awesome.
That's awesome. That is so
this
cool.
This is great. And a lot of the women, are in Utah or Montana or Wyoming, and they are in the backcountry right now hunting elk because it's the rut. And they, when they're kind of in their downtime, they go fly fish. And they catch monster rainbow and brown trout, and they're posting about it, and I'm super jealous. So basically, we, my friend Sarah Westman and she's the owner of Kit Fox Design Group, and she is a firearm industry illustrator, and I basically started the group, and then a couple days later, I was like, look, I started this group, and I want to, fuel the fire. I want to keep this going because this is really cool, and I think that this is very much needed. And so I asked her if she wanted to help me be an admin. And then with that, I was like, I think that, we've seen a lot of reaction, and we've gotten a lot of really great feedback. And we should kind of we should ask these girls if they would be interested in sharing their story with the world, just to kind of accumulate more girls. And the whole mindset behind it is that, we are a group of sportswomen who are actually there to fish, or actually there to hunt, or actually there to show up, do the hard work, do the nitty gritty, and tell the story, pretty much. And we're not there for likes. We're not there for commercial. We're actually out there busting our butt to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's important because, a lot of Instagram has become just this one big commercial, and that's not necessarily what people want to see a lot of the time. A lot of the women want to see other women who are actually out there working hard. I mean,
right.
If you don't know how to catch a fish for the first 6 months, like, where do you go? How do you figure it out? And
right.
So, I've started this group so that doesn't have to happen to another girl. And I want to be able to have enough members and enough women who are out there actually working their butt off to make it work and make it happen, or maybe they're curious about hunting and fishing and they've never gone, but they want to go and they want to make a connection or make a network of other women that they feel comfortable going, out fly fishing with, and they don't have to go with two random strange men. You know, it's kind of just a whole matter of principle here, but
yeah, you didn't. I'm assuming you didn't tell your parents you were going, but you know, that's one of those things. Hey, I'm going.
Oh,
to the river.
I totally like dropped locations, and I always tell my boyfriend, I'm like, hey, I'm going into the woods with this person. If I don't come out, you have to come back and kill them.
Well, we'll put some links up to that Facebook page, and so the ladies can find it, and then maybe they don't have to go with two strange men, even though they're great guys, I'm sure. But yeah, that is kind of
they totally are 100%. But you know, you never know.
Well, let's talk about a group called Fight or Die, or the OAR. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what's going on with Fight or Die?
Yeah, Fight or Die. I did a little bit of pro bono work for those guys earlier in 2018. Maybe I shouldn't say pro bono, but I did a little bit of work for this group of veterans, and they're called Fight or Die. They are rowing in the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge, and they're actually headed down south right now. They're for an ocean trial, but basically, the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge is a 3,000-mile race across the Atlantic Ocean, and they start in the Canary Islands, and they finish in Antigua.
Wow.
And yeah, it is crazy. So they're a four-man team. There are some people who do solos, some people who do doubles, trios, or four-man teams. So they started a four-man team, and their whole mission is to save veteran lives. They've teamed up with the University of Denver, and they are a 501c3, and they have basically teamed up with University of Denver because they have, in their psychology department, they have a military specialty, and with them, they're working with Dr. Jacob Hyde, who was also a veteran. He was a medic in the Navy. And when he came back from Iraq or Afghanistan, I'll have to make sure, but when he came back from Iraq or Afghanistan, he basically walked into the VA and was so appalled with it that he walked out, applied for college, and got a degree in psychology.
Wow.
Actually, he got a doctorate in psychology.
Holy
and
cow.
basically just because he wanted to help veterans. And so what Fight or Die is trying to do is that they are trying to create alternative health options for veterans so that they don't have to rely solely on the VA, because the VA might, they might push pills. But maybe that's not what they need. Maybe they just need a group of other veterans to go fly fishing with. Or maybe they need a group of veterans to start biking or train for marathons. And so basically, Fight or Die is trying to generate enough donations so that they can bring other veterans together and pay for a veteran to seek treatment from the University of Denver and get whatever type and the best health options to help cure their traumas, or to help them kind of start the healing process of recovery for their traumas. And so they are they're pretty spectacular group of guys.
That's really
to say
cool.
the least. Yeah, and I met them through a good friend, and the president, Brian Knight. He's a big fly fishing. He's a big fly fishing guy, and but I went to Denver and stayed with him and his family, and they were nice enough to let me stay with them in their home for the Fight or Die Gala back in April, at the end of April, beginning of May. And so Bryant took me fly fishing on the South Platte when I went up there. And I had been trout fishing before, but not since I, had really started fly fishing and really started to kind of start my practice of fly fishing. And so he took me to South Platte, and we had a guide and whatnot. And, you know, when we got there, Bryant was like meditating. And it was so cool to watch him. He was just like meditating in his truck driving. And we were, you know, we saw Red Rock, and we drove through all these little small towns, and we drove through the mountains and whatnot. And when we got there, Bryant, like, he just went like tunnel vision. And he was just like, so, you know, he like brought some beer, and so he had a beer and whatnot. And basically it was like, we're here to drink a couple beers, and we're here to fly fish, nothing else.
That's awesome.
And I just like, I watched him, and he was just like so intent. And we were throwing like, we were nymph fishing. And so we were like nymphing at these like 24-inch trout, which, you know, I've totally fished like all Guadalupe bass and largemouth and whatnot. And it's just like throwing flies at these trout, and I'm just like freaking out. Like, I am so excited about it. And Bryant is just like, come on, Merrill, like, you got it. You're going to get it. And so I finally hook into this, like, probably 24-inch rainbow trout that I've been staring at forever. And so I am trying to reel it in, and I have my camera like strapped around me, and I start to grab for my camera, and Bryant yells out, he's like, don't you dare grab that camera. We'll get your picture afterward. And I swear, right after he said it, my line snapped loose.
Oh,
no. And he was so mad at me. He was so mad at me. He was like, we're here to have beers, and we're here to fly fish. That's it. He was so mad at me. But, you know, he was totally there to just kind of let loose. He'd been really stressed because he was planning the gala, and we were, you know, doing a whole bunch of last-minute stuff. We had been to Broncos Stadium and picked up a Peyton Manning Broncos helmet. Peyton Manning had signed a Broncos helmet for us to auction off and whatnot. And so Bryant is taking a 12-weight Scott Meridian with a hatch reel on it on their big journey across the Atlantic Ocean. And I have no doubt that he is going to hook into something massive out there. There have been teams that have gone out there, and they've had a great white shark follow them for 3 to 5 days. Or there was another team who had a guy who was sleeping in their like sleeping quarters, and next thing you know, this like weird spear-like thing just pops up like 3 inches from this guy's face.
Oh my.
And it turned out to be a bill from a billfish, like the nose of a billfish. And
wow.
I mean, I have no doubt that Bryant is going to post something, and he's just going to be grinning ear to ear because he's out there totally scraggly, totally tan, just with this massive monster fish. So I'm excited to see what they end up doing. And, you know, I'm excited to see how much money they generate. They really want to help some veterans out. I know that they've had a really substantial amount of positive feedback on what they're doing, and I hope that they end up doing really well. And honestly, knowing who these guys are and how passionate they are about helping other veterans after how many friends they've lost and how many people they've helped or couldn't help, I know that they're going to do really, really well out there. And I'm excited. It's going to be so fun. You can watch once they take off after December 12th, after they like the siren or the horn blows, like you can watch them on Talisker Whiskey. And they have a satellite map of each boat rowing. And the record is 33 days, I think. And, you know, Dr. Jacob Hyde, our Navy medic, he did all the math on it. And it was like perfect conditions. You guys can probably make it in 35 days. And I know that they are totally focused on winning 100%. These guys are special ops. Like they They have been trained, and they will not sleep, they will not eat, and they will not rest until they win.
Yeah, they're veterans. They're the hardcore. I mean, they don't give up, and that's awesome.
Oh yeah. These guys are special ops vets, and they will succeed totally, 100%. I'm just excited to see what they do, and I know that along with fly fishing and hunting for Bryant, this whole competition and gearing, they've been working for 3 years on this.
Wow.
And now is the time. They have their boat. Their boat is painted. It's called the Whoopie, and it's awesome. I'm so excited to see what they end up doing.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, that's me. Well, thank you very much, Merrill, for spending some time with us. If someone wanted to get a hold of you, I know we'll put your Instagram link up on the show notes. We'll also put up your website and all of that. But what's the best way if someone wanted to actually contact you? Is through your social channels the best, or?
Yeah, I would say through my Instagram at little.red.robinson, or if they wanted to read a little bit more about me and kind of keep up with what I'm doing, they can reach out to me on littleredsportslist.com. And then you'll see my contact form and whatnot. You can send me an email or whatever.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I was so looking forward to this interview, and I really appreciate you taking some time with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you, and I'm honored that you asked me to come on.
Well, thank you, Merrill, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Remote No Pressure Podcast. We're so happy that you were able to join us this week, and we can't wait until next week. Until next time, go fishing.